Hey, what's up? It's Dan, and in today's video, I got something special to share with you. So back in September of 2022, I embarked on a journey that I called monk mode. And it was a time when I decided to renounce all distractions and just put all the effort into myself and my business. Now, part of doing monk mode was to give up alcohol completely. Now, alcohol has always been a part of my life since I was 18 years old. It started with being in the basement of my friend's house, hiding from his parents and drinking Kahlúas and chocolate milk until I ended up throwing up in his basement, to partying pretty much multiple times every single week and getting myself trashed to the point where sometimes I would not even remember what I did. And the thing about alcohol is that it's just this accepted part of society. You are actually weird if you don't drink. It reminds me of this quote, and I'm paraphrasing, where I think it came from Chris Williamson, where he said that
for some reason, alcohol is the only drug where if you don't do it, people assume you have a problem.
And that kind of sat with me a little bit. It was always a part of my life. It was always a part of like my social fabric of like who I was as a person. And I never really took any time away from it. And it wasn't until I watched this episode from Andrew Huberman about quitting alcohol. Actually, it wasn't even about quitting alcohol. It was about the effects that alcohol has on your body.
No consumption, zero consumption, consumption of 0 ounces of alcohol is going to be better for your health than low to moderate consumption of alcohol.
And I'm going to link to it down in the description. And that video literally changed my life. And the reason why it changed my life was because I always thought drinking alcohol was healthy. I always thought that moderate alcohol drinking or drinking alcohol was correlated with a long life. I thought that drinking red wine was one of the healthiest things that you could do for your body because of the polyphenols and resveratrol. But then I realized that in order to get the amount of resveratrol that you need from red wine, you would need to drink a massive amount, probably to the point where you're just gonna get massively drunk. And with all that being said, I never knew what life was like without alcohol. And I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see what exactly would happen without relying on it as a way to lubricate myself socially, as a way to escape my problems, whatever it is. I wanted to see what life would be like without it. And the way in which I drink, it evolved over time. So in my 20s, I would drink literally to the point where I would just need to get plastered. It would just go to me being on the streets of Hong Kong, literally passing out on the streets. And then my friends would take makeup and all this kind of stuff and just like paint all over my face. I have great friends, what can I say? And in my 30s, it turned into something social where every single time I'd go to see a friend, we would have a drink. It would be just part of the way that we socialize with each other. And then when I was in my 40s, right now I'm 44 at the time of doing this, it turned into something I did pretty much every single week. I would go out on date nights with my wife, we would grab a drink, and I would probably grab a couple more because there's just something about being buzzed and drunk that I kind of just gravitated to. So in September 11th, 2022, I made a bold decision to stop drinking. And essentially I took an entire year away from alcohol. So in this video, I want to show you everything that I learned and also the conclusion that came out of it. Now, it might actually shock you what I have decided to do with drinking alcohol. So watch all the way to the end and you'll see exactly what I mean. So the first lesson is that I was using alcohol as a crutch. I was using it to deal with my stress and emotions. Now you see, I would use alcohol as a way to numb my stress. And what it would do is it would actually provide temporary relief, but the stress would always come back. And when I stopped drinking, I actually had to confront my stress head on. And I had to actually get in touch with how I was feeling. Now, you're gonna be inundated with all this like masculine alpha male type of stuff that says that you should suppress your emotions and you shouldn't even feel them in the first place. But the key to being human, and anything that I know from especially just the nature of humans, is that we are emotional human beings. It's not necessarily about suppressing emotion. It's actually about about learning how to manage emotion and deal with it. And the more that you escape these emotions through drugs, through alcohol, through other forms of distractions, the more you're just inviting it back later on. Now, the thing about stress and dealing with it using alcohol is that once you stop using alcohol, it leaves a vacuum. It leaves this empty space where you used to do something to deal with it. Now, what are you gonna do? And one of the things that I've learned is that I've actually turned to healthier options to deal with my stress. Things like going out for walks, things like journaling out my actual feelings and getting to the heart and the root of where they're coming from. And one of the other things I love to do, or that I've done as a result of dealing with my stress, is just go into more mindful type of behaviors, things like meditation, things like walking meditations. And the more that I've been able to do that, the more that I've been able to fill that vacuum with healthier options, the more that I feel that I don't necessarily need alcohol to deal with it. And it's not like I was addicted to alcohol at all, but one of the things that we know about addictive behavior is that there is always a cause. There is always something beneath the surface that is not being dealt with. And when it came to alcohol, I basically was using it to get buzzed or to get drunk in order to just escape the things that I wasn't dealing with in the first place. So when I gave up alcohol, number one, it was super hard to deal with these things that I've been just avoiding. And the second part was doing hard things is actually the key to making an easier life. So the more that you actually have the hard conversations, the more that you deal with the hard emotions, and the more that you go into them and introspect, the more that you're gonna invite peace into your life without the need of abusing substances. So giving up alcohol was a net positive for dealing with my emotions, and it just made me a more peaceful guy. Now, the second lesson is a bit more obvious, but you won't necessarily know it unless you give up alcohol, which is the fact that my sleep and my energy improved by leaps and bounds. So I track my sleep using this thing called an Oura Ring, and one of the things that it does is it gives me a sleep score every single night. And one of the things I noticed when I gave up alcohol is that my sleep scores increased by a factor of about 5 to 10%. Now, that may not seem like a lot to you, but over the course of days, over the course of weeks, over the course of months, that sleep compounds into positive effects in your life. And one of the things that you have to understand is that alcohol just wreaks havoc on your sleeping patterns. And then it actually creates this vicious cycle. So you drink alcohol, you get poor sleep, you increase stress, you increase your anxiety as a result of getting poor sleep, then you have to drink alcohol to numb it, and then you just go through this cycle over and over and over. Now, this goes in line with the first point that I made, which is the sense of like not using alcohol as a way to deal with stress and emotions in the first place. And one of the things I learned is that when you have a great night of sleep, you are better able to deal with your stress and emotions more effectively. Because when you're tired and when you're fussy, you're just not gonna be able to have the tools to deal with your stress and emotions. It's like kind of like trying to race in quicksand. And if there's anything that we know about sleep, it's the lead domino where all great things come from. I've done many videos on this. I'll link to them in the description. I'll have them somewhere here, somewhere there, so you can click on it. But you have to understand that when you get a great night of sleep and when you fix your sleeping habits, it turns into a massive net positive for the rest of your life. Now, the next lesson is something that is gonna fly in the face of what a lot of people think when it comes to alcohol and when it comes to substances in general. So my focus, my creativity, and my productivity were enhanced. And this was probably a factor of getting better sleep, being able to deal with my emotions so they would not hinder me, and all of these things. Like, I never really look at things as the one thing that kind of like broke the camel's back. Everything is so multifactorial. So with all these things that have been happening, all these positive things that have been happening as a result of giving it up, one thing that I realized is that it just enhanced my ability to do work. And my unique ability inside of my business is to create content, is to share my lessons with an audience. And when I gave up alcohol, that is when my business and my audience growth just exploded. I went from 200,000 followers on Twitter to about like 600 and I think it's like 18,000 followers I went from 60,000 followers on LinkedIn to 259,000 followers. My newsletter grew from 60,000 to, I think right now it's about 198,000 subscribers. You should really subscribe to that one as well. Every single week, I give amazing advice when it comes to health, when it comes to longevity, when it comes to health, energy and getting lean, and I'll leave a link in the description below for that. Oh, and my Instagram grew from like 200,000 to like 550,000. And this YouTube channel that you're seeing right now, it grew from 2,000 to 20,000 within the year without me really even like focusing on it. And all of that coincided with having my best business year yet. And it is not a mistake. I don't believe in coincidences. What I do know is that when you give up alcohol and all of these amazing things are happening in terms of getting better sleep, in terms of being able to deal with your emotions, what happens as a result is you have better workflow, you have better productivity, you can actually create better ideas as a result of not being numbed out all the time. And this flies in the face of people saying that they need alcohol to be creative. That is a lie that people tell themselves. Now, you may bring up examples like Charles Bukowski. You know, he was drunk the entire time that he was making his novels, but there are also many, many, many other examples of great authors, great creators who gave up alcohol, who ended up even enhancing the creativity of the work that they do.
So I gave it up end of July last year. Initially, I was going to do 3 months. The 3 months was so amazing that I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the end of the year.
And one of the best things is that you just don't need a crutch anymore to be creative. You can actually just be creative without using a tool or kind of like, I don't even know if it's a tool, but something like alcohol to enhance it. So my focus, my productivity, my creativity soared, and that had just a massive impact on my business. Now, the next lesson is socially. Basically, I had been able to improve myself in a social way. So I'm an introvert by nature, and alcohol was my crutch when I went to social gatherings. One of the things that I would do is like, if I ever felt kind of social anxiety, if I ever felt anxiety being in a social situation, I would actually turn to drinking more wine or filling up my cup a little bit more, just to kind of eke out a little bit more sociability. Essentially, I was using it as a crutch to be in social situations. However, not drinking alcohol taught me some very important lessons. One of the first ones being is that if I need alcohol to be around a certain person or to be around a certain group, it's actually a sign that I probably don't want to be around that person or that group. Also, the other thing is that I feel that alcohol blunts your social skills in the long run. Now, I don't need alcohol to just decrease my inhibitions so I can talk to a person. I really lean into just being curious about the person, asking questions. If I feel like I don't want to talk to this person, I don't have to. And I've trained myself enough times where I can enjoy social situations now without needing a drink. And that feels amazing. And we're coming on the theme right now, which is the sense of like alcohol being used as a crutch. And if there's anything that we know about crutches, okay, so we use crutches. Let's just say you broke a foot, you use a crutch and you're using it just to make sure that the foot heals up so you're not putting enough pressure on it. But over the course of time, you actually need to lose the crutch when the foot gets stronger. And if you don't lose the crutch, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be on that crutch and the foot is gonna atrophy, it's gonna get weaker. So one of the things that I've learned about giving up alcohol, especially when it comes to social situations, is the idea that when you use it as a crutch, it actually makes your social skills a lot weaker as a result. And this goes into the idea of like doing the hard thing and just like pushing yourself to be social. And then if you don't want to be social, allowing yourself to not be social. And I feel that that's a big tip for, especially for people who are just introverts like myself, who don't necessarily like going to big gatherings, going to parties and just like whooping it up with everybody. You know, people who just enjoy a quiet time alone or just being in a group of people where there's just like a very small amount, so you can actually just like dive in and just get deep with everyone. So anyways, that's my perception when it comes socially. And then again, just giving it up just allowed me to give up that crutch. Now here's the final lesson, and with me saying all these things about alcohol, you might be surprised at the conclusion I came to. So I was in Mexico for an event. This was in January 2022, and we were at a resort and everyone was passing cigars around. And you know, some people took part in it and some people didn't. And I took part in it. I don't smoke cigars regularly. I actually kind of don't like the process of cigar smoking, but I did it. And I took the stogie and then I started lighting it up, and my friend, his name is Billy Bosch, he comes up to me, he's like, Dan, why are you smoking a cigar? Aren't you supposed to be like the health guy? Isn't nicotine bad for longevity? And I said to him, Billy, part of longevity is enjoying things like this, which is me, pointing to the cigar, with your friends in moderation. Now, if you do this every day or even every single week, and yes, it is gonna affect you, but if you do this once in a blue moon with the people you love, it's actually a net positive in my books. Now, this might fly in the face of everything that I talked about, and I may be sounding like an entire hypocrite by saying this, but I'm gonna just put it out there that sometimes, on a rare occasion, enjoying a glass of wine with someone that you love is a net positive. And the final lesson is just you have to find what your balance is. This whole video is not about trying to influence you to quit alcohol. This is me actually just expressing my thoughts in a way that I can use. It's almost like a personal journal in a way. But like anything, you have to go to your extremes and you have to find your balance. And this year without alcohol, it gave me a valuable amount of perspective. One of the things you have to understand is that you have to zoom out in order to see the forest for the trees. And this year actually taught me to zoom out. Now, there are a number of reasons why people should abstain from alcohol, especially if you just can't control yourself around it. I remember I was talking to a guy from Twitter and he was asking, hey, I don't even like drinking, but when I start drinking, I can't stop. Should I quit it? And then I told him, if you can't stop yourself from over-consuming a substance, whether it be food or whether it be alcohol or drugs, then abstinence is a great strategy. After a year of just not drinking alcohol, I do realize there are just some rare benefits to just moderate consumption. And when I say moderate consumption, I really mean, for me, it's like maybe once every 6 months to 8 months, even maybe like once a year. It's kind of like enjoying a glass of wine with friends or someone I love, just like I was savoring that cigar in Mexico with my friends. And this reminds me of the lesson from the Tao Te Ching, which is the wise avoid extremes, excesses, and complacency. And again, I'm going to throw in there that the only caveat is your ability to control yourself around these substances. Again, if you can't control yourself around alcohol, then abstinence is totally the key. So this does not mean that I'm going to go back to drinking every single week, because the cost does not fit the reward. It's not even a reward. The cost does not fit the actual way I'm going to feel the day afterwards. I feel that when I drink alcohol even excessively, or especially excessively, it holds me back for about a couple of days. And that shit adds up over the course of a year. However, every once in a while, I'm not going to mind sharing a drink with people whose company I enjoy. This is my balance. This is the balance that I found, and everyone has to discover their own path. So here are my final thoughts. I hope this journey of mine helped you if you are kind of like thinking about giving up alcohol, or if you've ever been wondering about, taking some time away from it. I hope the lessons that I've shared have allowed you to kind of just guide you through the path. Again, this is not about telling you to do one thing or the other. It's about letting you make your own decisions based on what you feel is right for yourself. And remember, life is about finding your balance and doing what works best for you. So thank you for joining me today. And until next time, stay mindful and take care. Cheers.